Welcome to Rauta and Beyond the Gates 2025 Festival Preview. This time I will quickly go through the lineup and my plans to interview certain bands, as well as give you a little bit of general information about the festival and the city. You know, the basics, how to get there, what to see, what to do, and about the venues in question. As much as I know about this 2025 edition compared to two previous years when I have been to Beyond the Gates, I'll try to mention them as well. But obviously I'm not an insider, so my information is very much based on my previous trips as well as what is seen already on the website. So let's tune in for Beyond the Gates website. First you see Grieghallen, the main venue for main bands, then Werftet, secondary venue for main bands, and then there is also tertiary venue called Kulturhuset, or Culture House. All of these venues are within the city center, basically a few minutes walk from one another. Now, two previous years when I've been to Beyond the Gates, it was more like days 1 and 2 were at the Werftet, the old factory, which is by the sea, and with the tattoo parlors, convention, whatever. There are obviously two band stages and beer area and stuff like that. Very nice place in a way, even if sound-wise it pales in comparison to legendary Grieghallen. Grieghallen being a concert hall with magnificent sound and great place for the bands to play as well as the audience. Not to mention it's of course a legendary place for so many bands who have recorded their material there. We're talking about the early black metal days in Norway, 1990s. But we are here to talk about the festival, not the past and all that stuff. Before we get into the very lineup and things, I must mention that Bergen is my favorite city when it comes to Nordic countries. It's surrounded, that is the core, the center of the city, by beautiful mountains, and you can go on top of them. You can already see them in this video briefly. And from the top of the mountains, you can see not only the seaside, but surrounding areas, as well as the other mountains. And at least one of them is definitely worth going to. I say just one because obviously most people don't have the time or energy to go through all of them. But if you have, prepare your hiking shoes and clothes and get your ass on the top of these mountains. At least Fløyen, which is a very core of the city by the fish market, definitely worth seeing the city from the above, so to speak, as opposed to be on the ground level only. That is, in my opinion, very vital part of understanding the Bergen nature in Norway. And as such, if you have more time than to just the festival days, I strongly recommend that. Last year we had 5 days instead of 4, which means that during the 4 festival days we could totally focus on the bands and interviews and all that stuff, whereas the 5th day was reserved for tourism, to see the city itself and of course the mountains. But that is about the basic Bergen information, and now let's focus on the lineup. So, first day, Wednesday, July 30th, the very opening day of the festival, takes place at USF Werftet. Now, when I was first time in Bergen and I was checking out the Beyond the Gates stuff, it seemed so confusing that you have like 3 different venues for various places, various days, and I'm like, what is this? Sounds so confusing that I have to go to different places rather than your typical festival, which is just in one place. But once you go there, you figure out it's pretty easy to understand. This year it's different because according to the information on the Beyond the Gates site, it says that only Wednesday is at the USF Werftet, the old sardine factory, if I remember correctly. And the rest of the days are around Grieghallen. And then there's this night shift and day shift thing at Kulturhuset. Sounds confusing, but basically day shift is your afternoon bands, the opening acts for any given day. And night shift means it's more like the after party after the main events are done. And always interesting bands. But first, Wednesday. And I tried to mention the bands I'm hoping to get interviews with my backup plans. USF Werftet is featured quite interesting lineup because there's Triptychon playing Celtic Frost. That is the very first era of black metal, obviously. Tom G. Warrior and the people. And me being an early Celtic Frost fan, obviously I'm very much waiting for this one. Triptychon itself, it's a good band, but early Celtic Frost means more to me. So I'm very, very happy to see this one. Much like that, there was this Triumph of Death playing, old Hellhammer stuff. So it will be very, very interesting. I Am Morbid focuses playing Morbid Angel from the early albums, something that I'm very, very stoked about because, early Morbid Angel is a very, very important band to me. Morbid Angel in general is one of the best death metal bands. Then there's Destruction, 40 Years of Infernal Overkill. So they are celebrating the German or Teutonic thrash metal with Destruction. So already you have like first wave of black metal, first wave of death metal, and first wave of Teutonic thrash metal. Already a treat itself. Then you have Hellbutcher from Sweden, continuing the legacy with from Niflheim. Attic, the only band of the day I don't know previously, and Hellriva from Scotland, playing their aggressive, thrashy stuff and extreme metal in general. Now, obviously, if I get to choose which one I'm going to interview, it would be I Am Morbid for Morbid Angel stuff and Hellbutcher for Hellbutcher and Niflheim. Celtic Frost is definitely interesting, but I have done a Tom G. Warrior a couple of years ago, and I did Destruction interview a few years ago in Helsinki at Steel Chaos, as well as Hell Reaper at Nordic Metal Cruise. But let's see how it goes. You never know before it actually happens that which one I get to interview, but hopefully 2 per day. Thursday, first things first. Day shift, so the afternoon hours, we have Goldbrand, one of the better albums from 2024, Norwegian black metal, followed by Askaren and Nihilum. Nihilum I don't know even by name, so interesting to see what's it all about. Askaren I know by name and fame, I guess. But the main course of action is run by King Diamond from Denmark, or USA for that matter. And obviously it will be a main attraction to many people out there with its unique style of heavy metal and beyond. Paradise Lost is one of my all-time favorites. I know it's not your typical Beyond the Gates band, given that it's not black metal, death metal, thrash metal, but kind of a bleaky, gothic, melodic metal with the, very, very British sense of things doing in a very, very different fashions. Of course, early waves, later waves, death metal too. Very important band for me, so my hopes is to interview King Diamond and Paradise Lost. Then there's Lucifer from Sweden, featuring none other than Nick Andersson of Entombed. But this is more like retro occult rock. Good in its own genre, even if it's not totally my cup of tea. And then Icelandic act Misthrming, which I've seen a couple of times already. Now at Steelfest later on, and Inferno before that. So yeah, quality act from Iceland. And something I haven't seen for many, many years, almost decades by now, is Darkened Nocturne Slaughter Cult. Another band that I hope to interview if given the possibility. Will be interesting to see. And this is the Kulturhuset Night Shift, meaning it's the kind of after party band, the band that, closes the night and all. Then Friday, 1st of August, is done once again by Day Shift, Furia, Eternal Evil, and Morax, none of which I'm really that familiar with, so it will be interesting to get to know these bands better. And then main stage is featuring once again quite a catering. Opeth from Sweden with their progressive death metal and beyond. Candlemas celebrating 40 years of Doom, so epic doom metal from Sweden. Tribulation, a blend of death metal and gothic melodic metal. And Hexvessel from Finland, which is more like a less metal than the other acts here, but interesting band nonetheless. And then finally, one of my favorite things happening at this fest, Absu featuring Zemiel, the son of Typer 30th anniversary. And they already played this at Steelfest, and unfortunately I missed it. I was too much socializing, too much drinking beer, and just generally focused on other things, I guess, fair to say. Was a shame on me kind of a thing, because I really wanted to see it, but luckily I got to see Zemiel playing Absu and Zemiel songs, which they had another day, but definitely want to see this one here. But in terms of interviews, because I got Absu featured at Steelfest 2025 and Zemiel in 2019, obviously my bands to interview mostly would be Opeth and Candlemas, but also Tribulation. Hexvessel, I'm counting on I can do it someday in Finland. The last day is Saturday, 2nd of August. And this is curious. Beyond the Gates, that is the young band, the new ones, are supposed to be opening acts here. And they're still TBC, to be confirmed. Interesting. And main stage, Abath Dumokulda, meaning Abath of Immortal, playing all the Immortal songs with the Return to the Raven Realm set by Abath himself. Three times the band has turned down my interview approaching, and I am still hoping that the fourth time is going to be the charm. But I wouldn't bet my ass on it. But interesting anyway to see Abath again on stage. Saw them last year and 2 years ago in Finland, and once again in Inferno, so 3 times within like 5 years, and really, really good live band in my opinion. And Tåke, the local band from Bergen, is celebrating Dead Squad 20th anniversary in their home city. Tåke is always a great live band, in my opinion, more a live band than album band, so it will be interesting if they have something special up their sleeves in their home city. And also Gehenna is doing original lineup first 3 album set. This is one of my most interesting things on this day, maybe the most anticipated ones, for a couple of reasons. First of all, I'm a fan of Gehenna's 3rd and 4th album things, but also the two previous ones are definitely decent ones. And this is also something that I want to interview, because at Steelfest a couple of years ago it didn't go as planned. It was kind of agreed to do interview, but some random changes came into play and didn't happen. Dog Sonority, a cult band from Norway, if I recall correctly, will be interesting to see live for me first time. And Helheim playing their best album, in my opinion, Jormungand live. Helheim I have already interviewed. Tåke I have interviewed twice. So obviously my focus in terms of interviews goes to Abath and Gehenna. But since I'm not really expecting Abath interview to happen, I hope at least Gehenna will. And if possibility, Dog Sonority would be interesting to see. But I don't know, so it remains to be seen. So for everything else, like tickets and information and everything else, you can find here on the Beyond the Gates website. Now, what else I can tell you? Getting to Bergen is pretty simple. There are direct flights to the Bergen airport, and from there you got to get this local train, which takes about 30 minutes, give or take, to the very core of the city. Now, if you haven't booked your accommodation yet, I would strongly recommend getting it close to Grieghallen, because that's where the most of the bands are. Or somewhere between Werftat and Grieghallen, like I have done 2 previous years, because then you get to have only a few minutes walk to either of the main venues. Kulturhuset is only like 5 minutes away from Grieghallen, so around that area would be very cool. If you cannot get those hotels because they are like already booked full, or because they're too pricey, there are some apartments in the city, so strongly recommend checking them out. We are using apartment for our crew anyway. And about the sightseeing, definitely getting up on those mountains is worth using your time and money and effort, especially if you don't have limitations of walking or whatever. But there are those trams, small trains going uphill for at least 2 major mountains, Flöjen and Ulriken. Ulriken is a little bit farther away, but I think it's the biggest one. I've been on both and definitely can recommend both. Flöjen is then again from the fish market, very easy to go, costs a little bit more than getting the other ones, but it's also the easiest. And on the top of the mountains, at least you get the beautiful views. And also if you go a little bit in the forest area, there is like nice lake, and there are paths to be walked about, and there's like cafeteria, I think some kind of restaurants. And if you can actually walk down at least 2 different paths, either one of the walking paths by the hillside, or like we did last year, we went for the side path, which is very, very easy to walk, very convenient, and takes time, but gets you on the other side of the city, where you see old buildings and architecture and all that stuff. Definitely worth a visit. Then there's also this nice little fortress in Bergen, which is nice to see, as well as the bay area with the piers and harbors and all that stuff. Not to mention the old houses, which are really there, the colorful ones, the kind of iconic for photography and all. And there is actually Jannike's tattoo parlor in the old houses by the Bay Area. And if you don't know who Jannike is, well, she's the artist that created, for example, 2 first enslaved logos and cover art for old school Norwegian black metal bands, including Bergen. I think Bergen logo was done by her, and I think the early Satyricon cover, if I remember correctly. Anyway, she's a legendary artist and very nice person, so I totally recommend visiting her place if you are planning to get a tattoo for memorabilia, whatever. And of course, if things are like previous years, there is a selection of tattoo artists at Beyond the Gates festival areas doing walk-in tattoos as you want. Price levels in Norway, or at least in Bergen, is quite high compared to most European cities. Maybe not much higher than in Finland, because nowadays Norwegian crown is a little bit weak compared to euro, or at least used to be. But prepare it to be a little bit on the pricey side of things, especially if you're coming from southern or eastern part of Europe. Maybe compared to, say, people living in London and all, might not seem pricey at all, but just make sure you have the budget. But like I said, I strongly recommend you the full stay for 4 days and at least one tourist day if you have the possibility. If you are coming from Oslo or leaving to Oslo from Bergen, you can prepare yourself mentally, enjoying the trip between Oslo and Bergen, because the train trip or by car, you get to see the beautiful mountains and fjords and whatnot. Beautiful nature in general. And August in Bergen, while it can be rainy, 2 past years it's been nothing but sunshine, and it's usually relatively warm, so more like a t-shirt weather and all. And I hope with this basic information you get yourself sorted. And if you see me at the festival, well, come by and pull me by the sleeve to say hello, and maybe we will have beers and whatnot, or talks. Anyway, should you have any questions and all, let me know in the comment section, and maybe see you in Bergen.